All right, guys. So we're here on the historic Whiting balcony. This is the historic Whiting Hotel balcony. And we are sitting with a couple good friends of ours. This is Rooster Pepper and Ned Pepper. Now, something's happened. And the world's unbalanced because these two are sitting here as friends. But you know what? I'm cool with that. And we're going to have Ned Pepper and Rooster Cogburn in the streets of Pawhuska as often as we can. I want to introduce you my friend, my good friend here. This is Doc Shoal. He is a local Pawhuska man with, he's steeped in history, folks. He's from here. He's a man of Pawhuska. He is a Pawhuska man. And he is a great representative of our county. And he is going to represent Ned Pepper in the streets. And we're just going to have some fun. We're going to have Rooster Cogburn here. I'm going to introduce you one more time. If you've never known this man other than Rooster, this is Clarence Benish. He is a professor at the Pawnee College over there in Pawnee. Magnificent man. He's steeped with history as well. But we're going to have a nice little evening here on the historic Whiting Hotel. And you're going to be looking down Kahika here in Pawhuska, Oklahoma. All these guys are going to regale you with history, with knowledge, wisdom, logic, all the good stuff. All right, here we go. We're going to start the evening with Rambling with Rooster and now Pepper.
Well, thank you, Scott, for that great introduction. And I'm proud to be here. And yes, I'm proud to be here with my good friend and, well, former enemy, Ned Pepper. And we're going to talk about the good old days before, he went astray and I had to go after him. And some of this is going to be personal stories, and we might cross over there into...
Is that you? That's it.
Sounds
like you got a bee in your pocket.
He's got a bumblebee in that pocket, and he's going to try to get rid of it. Yeah.
That was my fishing reel.
Occasionally, the 21st century slips up on
I don't
us.
know how I found that, but I did.
Anyway, Ned Pepper here, he did a lot of things before he joined that, that gang of his.
It was the Pepper gang.
Yeah, it was the Pepper gang. That's right.
Dang right.
And this is the true story. That other character that he was talking about owns the Buffalo Theater down there. And,
yeah.
Well, guess 3 doors down is the Graham Hotel, sometimes called the Roadrunner Inn, because it has a sign that says that too.
Yeah.
And you'll never guess in 100 years who actually built and owned that hotel for a long time before it shut down. You'll never guess. Scott, would you venture a guess who owned the Graham Hotel, historic Graham Hotel, about 4 doors down from the Buffalo Theater?
Would it happen to be Chester Gould?
No, but I'll give you a hint. It has the same name as someone up here on the stage. His name was Ed Pepper.
Oh.
Ed Pepper. Any relation to yours?
He might be. If he's an outlaw, he's always on the run, probably. I've never seen him. I couldn't never find him.
Well, that's because he's been dead for a number of years. But I thought that was so funny.
I didn't know that one.
And we got a little girl Sarah Hodge has a little girl, and her name is Cayenne, but they call her Pepper.
Like Cayenne Pepper.
So we got 2 Peppers on the street down there in Pawnee. But that's just a little tidbit. We want to get a little story here from Ned Pepper. Now, Ned, back in the days before your outlaw days, didn't you do a little, rodeoing and cattle chasing,
yes, sir.
Cattle punching? Well, tell us about that.
Working these cavalcades in here town a few times. You get to working. I did for Dwayne Ramey, best guy you ever know. Yeah. That's what. So I worked them cavalcades, worked them bull rides and them bull shoots, them stripping shoots was. Well, I'm sitting there one day. I was tired. I hooked my boots in the fence. Got them locked in there where they was not my feet wouldn't slip out. Well, here comes Tornado, this biggest bull they had, and they was riding threw the old boy off. Cinch strap still on. Didn't care about coming in my gate. Went next to me about 2 feet, right where Rooster is. I have a 2-ton bull jump right next to me, and when he hit the fence, I got my feet out. And I went in the arena. He went in the strip and shoot. Let the Cowboys deal with that one. That was one big mess of bull coming right at me, and I didn't know where. I couldn't pull my feet out. I was stuck. But that's experience as a cavalcade. I've roped and rode at the cavalcade, and I knew a lot of these guys out here, these ropers.
Good to see you guys.
In the museums here. I know people like Rod Harkness. He's a world champion steer roper here in town. I went to school with, graduated out of high school with, and he's one of the best guys you'll ever meet. And
Does he got some kind of senior roping thing coming up soon?
yes, he does.
When is that?
I'm not sure. You just have to look it up and find the dates of that. If you could,
Is that going to be on that Visit the Osage page or something?
I bet it would be.
All right, we'll have to look.
We'll have to find it because
Yeah. So Rod Hartness.
Rod Hart, he does a lot of good. He's a good guy. I know a few crazy rodeoers. One buddy of mine, Justin Patterson. I want to put a shout out to old Justin. He's the Indian National Finals Rodeo champion in 1982. And if you ever met the guy, you can see why he's so good. Because he is not scared of anything. And
So
that's just a few stories I got.
How many years of cavalcade have you experienced?
Ever since I was a baby, I've been going to cavalcade with my grandmother.
When did that start? Do you remember?
Oh, man, that's been 80 years ago, probably, or better. And I can't exactly put a date
Did you ever
on it.
get to meet Ben Johnson?
Yes, sir, I have. Several times I've met Ben Johnson. And he's just like a guy in town when you come to see him. You talk to him, he's just like, hey, how you doing? Having a good day, all that. And the times I met him, one time I had him give me an autograph. I couldn't stand it, you know. It was like the last time I was going to ever get to see the man. They were honoring him here in town, and he gave me an autograph and said, there you go, bud. I was working that day, and I just happened to see him downtown, and he took care of me and talked to me for a minute, and it was a really nice meeting. So it's been a few good meetings, and after all meeting then, and one of the most memorable moments, and I hate to say it, was when his funeral came. And I've never seen so many people in town. I was at that funeral when he passed, and I've seen a lot of respectable people from Hollywood showing up. Clint Eastwood, Charles Bronson, for example, James Garner. I can just go on and on and on for the people that came to this funeral for Ben Johnson, and that was an honor in its own. And you just have to know the man. You have to watch some of his movies, maybe study him a little bit, but he's not really the movie star type. He's himself when he plays Ben Johnson every time.
I'd like to address that very statement you just made. My favorite Ben Johnson quote is, "I'm not much of an actor, but I play Ben Johnson better than anybody." And that's exactly why John Wayne picked him off the Osage tall grass prairie. He saw a genuine cowboy, a genuine rodeoer, and he knew that if he put him in the movie, all he had to do is just be himself. And yeah, I've watched most of his movies, and he's playing himself, and there's nothing more real than just being yourself.
Yeah.
So I thank you for all that.
I got a little story about how he really got started. Was Ben Johnson was here wrangling on the Mullendore, and guess, oh and behold, that Howard Hughes showed up wanting horses for movies out in California. And he saw Ben Johnson, how good he was, so he hired him on the spot to hire and bought some horses. So he had Ben Johnson bring him out to Hollywood to him, and saw how good a wrangler he was. He said, hey, how would you like to do a movie? Next thing you know, he's doing movies for Howard Hughes to begin with. And that's where he got his true start.
So Howard Hughes?
Howard Hughes, the millionaire.
The guy that made planes and stuff?
The guy that built the Spruce Goose.
The Spruce Goose.
That guy
That's right.
when he hired Ben Johnson as a wrangler to bring horses to him from the Mullendore. And they discovered him by how good he was, and the rest is history. I mean, the man roped lions, for crying out loud. He was that good, and he wasn't afraid to rope lions or whatever they wanted him to do. he would do it. But when you see him on the screen, even that was the real Ben working. And my favorite movies is whenever Ben Johnson and Harry Carey Jr. are in She Wore a Yellow Ribbon, and they're horsemen, and these guys are trying to show them how good they are. Well, these two, Harry Carey Jr. gets up. Ben Johnson says, well, let me have those. He takes the two horses. They both jump on them. Two horses, one leg on each horse, and they take off running. And that is the real Ben Johnson and the real Harry Carey Jr. riding those horses around that Army base, jumping fences with them. That's all Ben Johnson. He was the real deal, and he rode and roped just like anybody could. And he was actually teaching, now imagine this, teaching John Wayne how to properly ride and rope off a horse to where he looked good. So you got to admit, Ben Johnson might make John Wayne look a little good at times, so you got to give a little credit to old Ben.
Well, that reminds me of another quote, and this is a John Wayne quote, and it came from, I found out not long ago, it came because of his lack of being a real horseman. John Wayne, he grew up in Iowa, and he had to be taught how to ride a horse, of course, but and that saying that you hear sometimes people quote John Wayne is courage is being afraid but saddling up anyway.
That's right.
And that actually was referring to his lack of desire to get on a horse and learn how to ride. He knew he had to. He was afraid to, but he saddled up anyway. He was referring to his own apprehension, let's just put it that way, about learning to ride, because he had to do a lot of riding. Of course, he used a lot of stunt riders, too, when he had to do some. But he did jump that four-rail fence in the movie True Grit. But I want to turn it back over to you, because you got all the good stories. Here you go, Ned.
Well, I might have some good stories, but you never know what you're going to run into in this old town. You know how it gets around here sometimes.
Yeah.
Some of these cowboys, they like to get a little anxious, but they have a good time here. We got, I hate to say it, but I think they postponed the Ben Johnson steer roping this year because of that COVID-19.
But is Cavalcade still on?
I'm thinking the cavalcade will still be on, as far as I know it is. That's in July.
But is Ben Johnson Cowboy Museum open? How's that working?
That's open. The museum is digging, and really good exhibits.
It's brand new to Pawhuska, isn't it?
Yep, it is, and we just got some new stuff in. They got Ben Johnson's hat that he wore, and She Wore a Yellow Ribbon, got in yesterday, and it's an exhibit right now. And there's all kinds of other stuff to go see. The cowboys, like I talked about, from the local area that really made this town and county what it really is. We got world champion riders, barrel racers. Her name's Charlotte Hartness, is one of the world champion barrel racers. She's Charlotte Hartness Allen. She's married to Giff Allen, fire chief here in town, and I just think a lot about these people and their accomplishments they've done. And but we even have world champion. We got a Kentucky Derby racehorse from right here in Osage County that won the Kentucky Derby in 1922. Black Gold was her name. And some people just forget about, I mean, how could you not forget about a Kentucky Derby winner like Black Gold?
What?
Now
That's a perfect name, too, isn't it, for Osage County?
And that's what it was all about.
Osage Nation.
They had it, and they bought her, and they trained her, and this horse paid off, and it won everything it got into. And it's in the museum over there in the Ben Johnson, Black Gold. She's in there. Go check her out. There's all kinds of things to go see here in this town that I'm discovering on myself. Hello down there. Let's have a good time. Come on back. But you never know what you run into in this old town. I've seen some silly stuff in my time. But
Well, let me give
There you go.
you think about one of those stories, and I'll get a little
I'm trying to
commercial
get to
here.
one. I got a few that come to my head.
You mentioned the cavalcade is going to be fired back up again. Well, the Pawnee Bill Wild West show is back on.
All right.
Now, I can't give the exact date, but I bet you if you call down there to Pawnee, somebody will tell you. I think it's going to be the third week in July, but don't quote me on that. But I'll be there. I'll be there parking your cars, and it'll be a fine show. You know, they do all kinds of rope tricks, and they have Annie Oakley, and just a lot of trick riding stuff. If you've never seen the Pawnee Bill Wild West show, you've missed a heck of a Western performance right here in the great state of Oklahoma. So get on down there, call them, and find out the exact date, and I'll see you in the parking lot. And anyway, did you think of one of them stories? I wanted to see. I was talking about the Ben Jonson Museum over there, and it's a fine, world class. Well, I mean world class. Yes. And, I mean, we're talking exhibits that you won't see anywhere else, and a lot of them. Artifacts, statues, Western memorabilia, and rodeo. Of course, you know, Ben Jonson had the distinction of being the only actor who win Academy Award and also have the golden buckle from being a rodeo star. And I bet you remember when he won that, don't you?
Sure do. He won the Academy Award in '72. Is when he got it. But the golden buckle, I don't remember when he got that. Do you?
Well, probably before that.
I think that was 53. I think
53. I think you're right.
World
Is it
champion.
steer roping or stink team? What was his classification? I can't remember. I
Yeah.
bet Cody be watching this. He'll type it.
Yeah,
in.
you'll have to call in and tell us, Cody, if you're out there listening live.
Buffalo
But,
Cody, owner.
Buffalo Cody, he did a fine job on that museum. I was glad. Oh, by the way, you know what's next week? Next week is the 1-year anniversary of the grand opening of the Ben Jonson Museum.
Well, that's
just
a
3
fact.
blocks down the street from here. And I had the honor of being there. We had Newley, Buck Taylor,
Buck Taylor from.
and did you
Young
know
Smoke.
that it coincided with the 50th anniversary of the release of True Grit? And I was just so tickled and proud to be here. And it also coincided with the 40th anniversary of the death of John Wayne. Well, I had someone, I was telling that
Is that
story.
ironic or what?
Yeah, very ironic and coincidental. We had those coincidental
We sure did.
stories.
That's the first night we met was down there. And
That's right.
I remember it.
Yeah, that's another coincidence. Well, I was telling this story down the street this morning about the anniversary coming up next week.
Next week, you're right.
And also the anniversary 51 of True Grit and 41 of John Wayne's death. And someone said, well, aren't you John Wayne? And I said, well, Pilgrim, it's hard to keep a good man down. Have you ever heard that? So he continues to live through characters like me. But, Ned Pepper, a.k.a. Doc Scholes here, he's got some more stories, I'm sure. But we need a good topic. Well, when we're talking about coincidences, tell us the coincidence of us meeting on that day.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was there with some Mae West and some other saloon girls.
You sure were.
And
that's right.
they're going to be here tomorrow night.
Well, that'll be
At least 1 or 2, maybe 3 or 4.
Y'all need to come down.
You know, a rooster
Yeah.
has a saying. Now, this rooster has a saying. You can't have too many saloon girls. There's no such thing. There's no such thing as too many. No.
That
no.
sounds like me. You sound like an outlaw talking now. Them saloon girls will get you in trouble, but yeah, you can't never have too many.
You can't have too many.
That's a fact.
I mean, it's just like having too many sunrises or having too many sunsets or having too many ice cream sundaes. No, you just can't have too many. They bring joy to your
That's
life
right. That's
and
right.
beauty. And you know, beauty is one of those things on the hierarchy of needs. Maslow's, I'm getting a little psychology here. On the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, the need for beauty is way up there. You know, after we get our food taken care of and our safety needs and love and belonging and our self-esteem needs, which comes from work and identity, need to know to improve our life and improve our work. But then we got a need for beauty. Well, that's what saloon girls do. They come and add beauty to your life.
Yes, they do.
And if you're lucky, they'll do more than that. They like bring you a beer. But anyway, family audience. Yeah, Scott.
I do have a question. All right, so Doc, there's right back here behind us is Sally's Cafe.
Yes, Sally's.
Sally's Cafe.
Once this motorcycle gets by, could you tell us the history
Yes,
Ah, out there.
of that Sally's Cafe in relation to Ben Johnson, John Wayne, and all these people, Chapman Barnard Ranch? That's a great history right there.
Right there.
All right. Keep that mic close to you.
Right there.
There you go. Tell that story.
Yeah, anybody in Pawhuska knows, especially old timers like me, you've been around here all your life. You ate a many of Sally burgers, and I know you did. And fish on Friday, every Friday fish, never failed. But when you got the likes of Newly coming in and eating, Ben Johnson, John Wayne have eaten there, I'm sure a time or two. This place has been there for almost 100 years. All the years I worked here for the city, I'd start my days in the back with Sally bringing us breakfast. She'd cook them personal hard bacon and taters and bring to us and feed us and took care of us water boys when she was alive. And I remember a story one time when we were in there eating. She always cooked for us, and she was particular about how she cooked for you. You better eat your meal. Don't leave nothing gone off the plate, because she kind of took that personal. And I remember one time this old boy, we got done eating. It's his first time to eat there, and he only ate 2 bites of his breakfast. Sally comes in there and goes, "Was that not good enough for you? Did it taste good?" "Oh, yeah, and why didn't you eat it?" "I wasn't hungry. I cooked that personal for you. You ought to eat that." And I said, "I cleaned my plate." Yes, ma'am. She took care of us real well. She took care of a lot of people in town. Sally Carroll was an icon here, and her husband Bill Carroll, he was the one that caught all the fish for Friday. So if anybody ever knows that they're going to try, I think, to rebuild and refurbish the Sally's Cafe the way it was when she run it, with everything in it just like it was when everybody went and sat in the booth. Everybody in this town knows what I'm talking about when I talk about Sally Carroll. She is an icon, and you can just go on and on about the things that went on, the talks that went on in her cafe, and some of my best memories come out of Sally's. And she talked to everybody like they was her best friend, like you was her grandma, and I guarantee it, that's the way she treated you. It was like family, and she treated everybody that way. It didn't matter what color you were. She loved everybody that came into her restaurant, and if you left there hungry, you had a problem. But that's just some of the stuff, the history of this old town that I grew up in. And I don't know if anybody knows about that old fire station downtown my daddy worked in.
Oh, yeah. Tell them that story.
I grew up in that old fire station. I was a firehouse brat, and I grew up in that old firehouse. My dad, when he worked nights, I'd get to stay up there every now and then. They'd let me. Well, he told me stories. The old fire chief that was there before he retired told me that when them horses expired and died, that they had to dispose of them. Well, they'd dig a hole right there in the stall in that fire station, and they'd bury them in that hole and cover them back up. And if you had another one go down, well, you just piled it on top of the other and covered it up. So there's probably at least 2 or 3 horses that are buried actually under the old fire station downtown behind City Hall, which was the old Osage Nation council house back in the early 1890s.
The City Hall was.
The City Hall was. It was all about that's where they did their council house, and they're working their problems out with Frank Phillips, trying to get that money straightened out. And they come up with this council house down here, along with their agency on top of the hill, and they've done a great job. This town, I've seen it come alive in the past year or so, and I think it's a good thing that this town has got something going on finally that is really happening, and it's a good thing for this old town. And as Ned Pepper, I'm trying to stay out of trouble. Me and old Rooster got together. This COVID-19's got everybody so messed up and so scared of it. Don't be afraid of nothing. This ain't nothing but just a pass in our lifetimes. But I had to come together with Rooster. I was really on the run. For so long, I just got too tired of riding that prairie out there, coming to town, getting caught, trying to get something to eat. But I had to rob a train or two just to get by, you know, stagecoach here and there. I never tried to kill nobody, didn't deserve it now. Because I'd pop a cap in your mama just as anybody else if I had to eat. That's just how it was back then. But old Rooster, he kind of tamed me a little bit to where I can become friends a little bit more closer after all the things that's been going on in this world. And we need to thank God that we need to pray for the families that's having problems in this country right now. And you know who I'm talking about. I don't have to mention no names. But here you go. It's just how it is in this whole world.
Well, you're right there, Ned. A lot of people need prayer and for a whole lot of reasons. And just talking about your past life there and changing it. And well, I got to remind you too. You know, there was a time when old Rooster wasn't a U.S. Marshal, and I know about hard times, and sometimes you make a little exceptions. Like that time I made that withdrawal. I like to call it just a withdrawal from that New Mexico bank. And I planned on paying them back, but I didn't sign any papers, and there wasn't a bank officer at the time when I took the money. But I was planning on taking it, paying them back, but they didn't see it that way as a loan. They saw it as that's why I left New Mexico territory. But and then of course I spent a little time in that Confederate Army, and that didn't turn out too good. If you were paying attention a few weeks ago now, I told the story how I lost my eye in the Confederate Army. But times have changed, so we're trying to do the best we can and bringing people together. Like if Rooster Cogburn and Ned Pepper can get back together, and everybody else can too. I shot him in the lower lip. Someone asked me, "You shot him in the lower lip? Why'd you do that? Where were you aiming?" I told him I was aiming for the upper lip. But that's why Doc talks a little. Ned Pepper talks a little funny because I shot him in the lower lip. I called him Lucky Ned Pepper because at one time I had my little posse. It wasn't much of a posse. I had a Texas Ranger and that little girl, Mattie Ross. But we had a jump on them, and we poured a lot of lead in their way. We got a couple of those of your gang members. The rest of them got away, and of course you did too. Yeah, Mexican Bob. Yeah, he'd take bullets and get right back up, can't he? He was some feller, wasn't he?
You took Harold out, but you took Mexican Bob right out. After you went by, you ended up shooting better than on the backside than you were on the front side. You got me in the shoulder before it was over. The next thing I know, he's got Mexican Bob laying over here. Harold's over here. He ain't cackling like a goat no more. It's just mayhem. And the next thing I know, Rooster turns around, and I'm like, all right. So I just shoot his horse out. I couldn't aim good. I pull up there, and he's laying down there, and I'm thought, okay, I got him. So I draw my pistol. I draw down on Rooster. I said, well, Rooster, I'm shot to pieces. And I'll be dang bad J. Popper up there didn't pop me off that Springfield off that gun. He thought he killed me, but he didn't. It just looked like he never knew what happened to Ned. He never saw him get up or nothing. But
that's right. And that was 600 yards, but it sure gave me time to get out from under that dead horse.
Yeah, old Bo gave you a trouble. I remember you saying that's the only time, Bo, you ever gave me time to cuss you. There's that dang horse laying on you where old Ned had you, where he was going to get you, but it wasn't meant to be. But I crawled off, and I've been gone for a while, but I had a lot of respect for him after I've been shot in the lip by him, and let me tell you, it's been a ride since, and I'm still hanging in there. We got a lot going on, me and this Rooster character here. We're going to be all right. And I think... everybody, hey, down there, you need to come up and join the party up here.
Well, yeah, things have changed, and it's good to see we're still kicking after all these years.
Amen,
You know,
amen, yes,
you
sir.
know. Now we got automobiles that run on gasoline. You know, it's just amazing. Of course, I got one that runs on electricity, and that's even more amazing.
Oh, boy.
But yeah, we've had some good times, and you know, we was talking about eating, you know, down at the cafe there. That made me think of good food. Now, my mama used to cook good food, and I had a friend. I got to tell this story for a late friend of mine. Now, back in the early, hey down there, come on up. In the early 20th century, a lot of single men would stay in boarding houses, you know.
Yep, I've been in
And
many of those.
there'd usually be a woman there that ran the boarding house and did all the cooking, of course. And now when you're feeding a bunch of hungry men, you got to put some volume out there of food. But occasionally this is a true story that my good friend Don Casey, lost him a few years ago, he used to tell with great pride, because he got this from his uncle, I believe, this story. There was a guy, let's see, Mr. Jones. I don't even know his first name, but they called him Mr. Jones. And now Mrs. Smith was the lady that ran the boarding house, okay? And she was famous for her apple pie. Nobody could beat her apple pie at the, you know, when they had the county fair. She always won first place. But she didn't give her boarders apple pie every week or every day, certainly not every day. So when they got apple pie, that was a big treat. And so when she laid that apple pie down there and everybody got a slice, she expected a few compliments, kind of like your
Miss Sally.
yeah, Miss Sally down there. Hey, do you know what's in front of you? That's world-class apple pie. Well, everybody was making those comments. Oh, this is the best pie I ever had. And, you know, and carrying on. Oh, could I have some more? And all that. But Mr. Jones, he was just silently eating away, nibbling away at that pie. He didn't say a word. Well, that made Mrs. Smith a little bit perturbed. So she walks around to his side of the table and got next to him and said, Mr. Jones, how do you like that pie? Now, she's fishing for a compliment, but I think she's going to come up empty-handed here, because what Mr. Jones said, and he never even looked up. He just kept nibbling around on that pie and said, he was chomping away and said, it better. It better. Oh, she was mad. I don't know if he stayed there much longer after that, but he didn't take the bait for a compliment, and yeah, I just loved hearing that story. I heard that story many times. I even shared that with my mother. I actually made the mistake of saying that a couple times on her cooking. But she got back at me when I started doing the cooking. I say, how's the food? And she'd say, it better. So that's an old story my dear friend Don Casey used to tell, and a whole bunch of others. Who we got down there at the end of the walk there? That looks like JoEllen, doesn't it?
That'd be the coordinator of the Ben Johnson Museum right here, my wife, JoEllen.
Yeah.
She's awesome.
Well, maybe she ought to come up here and say a few words. She's playing a character tomorrow night, isn't she? Well, come on down here and let's get a few words out of you. And now, folks, if you don't know this fine lady, you're fixing to, because I cast her for a part that I think she'll just gonna nail it. Well, come on down here. Well, I guess yeah, we got you a chair back here.
You guys kind of hang out together?
Yeah. So tell us about your character there, JoEllen.
Well, I hear I have to get bossy with him, so I'm probably going to be pretty good at that.
Yeah, I'm already used to bossy.
Well, tell us what's your name of your character.
Bella Moon?
Bella Moon. Now that's after the Bell Star Gang. It's kind of a spoof. We're going to do an investigation tomorrow night, so for a little private group coming in.
We'll Facebook Live it for you.
Facebook Live part of it for you. And anyway, JoEllen here is going to play one of the key suspects in our investigation, Bella Moon. And she's the queen of the Indian Nation outlaws. Now, you thought outlaws were all men? Well, if you want a mean one, you get a woman. Every man knows that. And she was the head of her gang. Now, you got some younger brothers that's in your gang, don't you?
Yes, and according to what I've heard, they're not all that with it.
I think you're referring to the youngest one, Half Moon.
Yes. I know.
Now, how did he get that name? You know how he got that name, or?
Yeah, I do.
Oh, tell us about that.
Half Moon, he got that from being my half brother.
Well, I've heard
So
several.
we gotta call him Half. We only call him Half Moon.
Half Moon. Well, you know, I think there's like a lot of good legends. There's 2 or 3 stories that explain things. And we might hear some of those tomorrow night. And anyway, if you're lucky, you'll get part of it on Facebook Live. But that's going to happen right here at the historic Whiting Hotel. And you know, y'all just come down and spend a weekend with me here. I'm down here almost every weekend. And we can have a party, and we can have you talk and sing. If you can sing, that'd be great. If you can't sing, we'll still have you sing. How's that? But JoEllen, you got a story for us? You got a story about old Ned Pepper here?
I got lots of stories about old Ned Pepper
No, what yet?
Here, give her the mic.
Well, how'd you meet?
A friend of mine that I worked with kept telling me about this guy here in town that was all into NASCAR. Thank you. And
Close.
she said that I need to meet this guy, and we wound up following him around for about 2 months. And I kept thinking I'm never going to meet him.
Wait, was this sounds like a stalker story. Where
I
is
kind
this
of
going?
was.
Yeah, that sounds like a stalker story.
I was being stalked.
There wasn't no kinda to it.
Well,
It was a stalker
I
story.
finally caught up to him, but all I knew was that his name was Doc, and so when I ran into him and his buddies, his shirt said Allen, and I didn't know it was him, so I turned around and said, I'm never going to meet this guy, and she said, what do you mean? He's right there, and there he was. And turned out to be a pretty decent guy.
When you found out that Doc wasn't really a Doc, were you disappointed?
No. I like Doc.
He's a great guy, isn't he? Yeah. Well, you know, the longer I know these two, the more I like them. I heard JoEllen the other day on Facebook Live, filmed by our good friend here, Scott Trotter, and she just had a lot of this wisdom was just coming right out of her mouth. It just flowed like it was born there. And I was so blessed with that. I think I even made a comment. I know I made a comment. But that's you got a pretty good philosophy of life. I'll just have to say it that way. You got to go look at it yourself. You don't believe me, because everybody goes through some tough times. Well, the tough times bring out the toughness in you. You know, you can either submit to the tough times and waller down and stay down, or you can rise to the occasion and do something miraculous. And that's what you all did, didn't you?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You just trust that God knows what he's doing and say, I'm along for the ride.
And when those troubles come along, he says, well, sometimes I get a little too bold. And I said, is this the best you can do? Well, yeah.
He'll say nope.
Yeah, no. But it's like that time. And we're going next year. We're going to come up to the. Let's see. That will be the 19th anniversary. No. Oh my gosh. No, that's going to be the 29th anniversary. When that truck pulled out in front of me.
Oh, boy.
And it tried to knock me out, but it didn't. But I was tempted to say, is this the best you can do? But guy came close enough. You know? Well, let's get on to another topic. How about, let's see. What's one of the, of course, that story you told about the rodeo, Well, you really entertained the folks with that jumping off, getting kicked off the horse and going in all
Yeah.
but I bet you got another one from the rodeo that's real funny or exciting, don't you?
I got a few.
All right, let's hear a couple.
I got a few when I worked for the water department out there. Let me tell you,
Yeah.
these cowboys had a tendency to tie their horses up. Well, they couldn't find any place. They tie them up to my water spout spigots out there, my water faucets. And they're only hooked to plastic underground. So guess what those horses would do? Pull them lines up and be gone walking down the road with my faucets on their reins. I've had
And
a
water
few-
spraying everywhere.
Water spraying everywhere. Everybody crying. We're in the mud. Help. I'd go out and help fix those old leaks out there. One time I remember I was working a hot leak out there by the grandstands. And everybody here remembers Jim Sweden. He called those cavalcades. He announced those cavalcades for 50 years, it seemed like. He was the voice of the cavalcade. And he'd catch me out there working them leaks, make fun of me out there. Well, there's old Doc swimming in another one out there. I'd be out there just getting as fast as I could, keep them cowboys with their water, and just had a lot of fun watching what was going on out there with those guys. And there's some hairy moments out there of those old rodeos. People get hurt riding those bulls and roping and everything. You'd be surprised what went on. And I got to experience it on the other side where my grandmother really helped me experience a lot of that. And I got a lot to give to Dwayne Ramey, bless his soul. He taught me how to rope and ride along with those guys that are in that museum today. And so I learned a lot from those people I was around here with. And I can still probably do it, but I'm just getting too old to swing that rope as I used to be able to. So I had to settle down and get into outlawing a little bit so I could support my bad habits, it would be. So I had old Rooster here finally call me down. You need to come up and have a good time here, electric guys. Keep digging out there. Love you.
Well, I mentioned rodeo. I got to give a shout out to one of my former students, Jamie Moore. Talk about a barrel racer. Now, there's that little girl. She can race those horses around that barrels like nobody's business. And she's won a number of barrel races. And I got to see her, of all places, over there at Fort Smith Rodeo. I think there were around 4,000 or 5,000 people there at that rodeo that night. And they had me go out. Oh, this is for you, Ned. They had me go out in the middle of the arena and do that famous line that you heard that night that you were talking about. And where you say to me, "What are your intentions, Rooster?" You remember that? And I come back and say,
What's your intentions, Rooster? What's your intentions, Rooster?
"I aim to kill you in 1 minute, Ned. Or see you hanged back at Fort Smith at Judge Parker's convenience. Which will it be?"
Well, that's bold talk for a one-eyed fat man.
"Well, fill your hand, you son of a bleep." That's for the family audience. And, well, we had it out right there. Well, I said that line. I didn't bleep it out for the Fort Smith Rodeo crowd.
I'm sure.
And that was a number of years. But I saw, I believe, the same night I saw Jamie, my former high school student back there at Morrison, Oklahoma. And so it's a shout out to you. Hope you're hearing this. So you had a lot of fun there at the rodeos and all that. But let's see, there's another topic we could switch to, or we're going to wrap this up. What do you think?
We can go to one more topic. What do you think?
I think we could probably handle one.
One more. We can do it.
Well, we were talking about, we got a big coincidence with coincidence when we met, and the coincidence tomorrow night. I can tell them a little bit about that without spoiling it. But something happened to me in 1970 on June 6th, right?
That'd be
Hey,
tomorrow.
you know what? Look around. Look around. By golly, it's getting that same time. It's getting twilight. It happened at twilight, in 1970. And then on twilight of 1971, on that same day, June 6th, June 6th, D-Day. If you're a World War II veteran or a history buff, you know that D-Day. And by the way, today is the anniversary of Robert Kennedy getting shot out there in California. And I remember that too.
I do too.
I woke up that morning and the TV was on and it just sounded like static. You know how at night when the TV would go off and they would have the little pattern come
pattern
up?
screen.
Yeah, there was a whole bunch of noise.
Yeah.
Well, I said, why would that be playing on? It was a Saturday morning too. And why would that be playing so early in the day? And well, it was all that chaos that had happened coming out of California.
Yes, sir.
And it was just terrible, folks. It was just terrible time. And we're living through rough times now. But I think we're going to get through it all right. But there are a lot of coincidences. Anyway, I was telling that story about something that happened in 70. And on June 6th on 71, something very similar happened that was related to that. It was a car accident. And then on the 10th anniversary, and right at sundown, like right now, it happened again. Well, tomorrow will be the 50th anniversary of that original event, and we're just going to have a good time downstairs when that party of Heartland Hogs come in.
Heartland Hogs.
Heartland Hogs.
Love them. They're going to be a good group coming down here. You got going these bikers. These guys are going to be good. And they're going to have a good time. We're going to show them some good times here in town. So
they have no idea how much fun they're going to have, do they?
They don't have a clue.
They don't have a clue. And we're going to have a great time. And I'm saving that story for the after party. You know, and we'll tell that story and we'll see what happens. You know, but anyway, well, life is good, and it's better when you just you pray for everybody. You know, I saw something really wonderful today. I was napping a little bit in the afternoon here before the show, and I heard that last night the protest over there in Tulsa, that the protesters asked the police if they could pray for them before the protest began.
Tulsa, that's
And
Oklahoma.
Tulsa, Oklahoma. And the police officer, the chief, said, under one condition, that is, if you let us pray for you too. And so there they were on, national television and everything, and local television, praying for each other.
Yep.
Well, you know, Doc and I, when they were old enough to remember those, the summer of '68, they had over 100 riots in major cities across the United States. 100. And so anyway, we fixed a few things back then, and maybe we have to fix a few things again now. But you know, maybe that's why we ought to wrap it up on. We're just going to pray. Oh, you got something? Okay, hold on.
I just want to give a shout out to my mother and father. Today is their 60th wedding anniversary.
There you go.
Bob Stoll, fire chief of Pawhuska, Oklahoma, for 16 of his 20 years here. 5 years as Grove fire chief. Very proud of my dad. And my mother was 35 years at school teaching here. Taught a lot of your kids at school. And that's a lot to be able to teach and get kids ready for the world. And 60 years my parents have been together. And my dad also this month is turning 80 years old. And I'm still glad to have him. And he's probably one of the best fire chiefs this town's ever seen. And that's just coming from me. And I'll guarantee if there's other people that will agree with me on that one. Anyway, and
I got one more thing.
One more. My nephew's birthday tomorrow on D-Day. Hayden, happy birthday up there in Wichita. Love you, brother.
Very good.
I want to give a shout out. I just remember this. You know, tomorrow is D-Day.
Yep.
But if you know your history, the 82nd Airborne and the 101st Airborne,
Yes, sir.
and I think the 101st from United Kingdom, too.
Mm-hmm.
because I heard a story about the 101st United Kingdom paratroopers. They switched badges,
Yep.
patches, because they had the same number and they just switched them to different countries. But they actually landed on today. Today is the anniversary when they went in first in the nighttime.
Behind Germany.
Yeah, behind the lines and lit at night before the troops came in that morning on June 6th. So it's the anniversary for the 101st and 82nd Airborne. And one reason I wanted to mention them is I had a dear friend who was in the 82nd Airborne, and she was a nurse. She was a nurse. I don't know if she was in D-Day, but she was in another big battle, and that was the Battle of the Bulge. And she got caught behind the lines there at where the movie is made, you know, the movie about Battle of the Bulge. She got caught there at Bastogne. At Bastogne.
Mm-hmm, I know this.
And this is a true story. Her name was Michelle, but she went by Mike all her life. She was a nurse, and she had worked 24 hours. 24 hours on wounded. Germans and Americans both. And so they had to get some rest, so they said, well, go take a few hours off and then come back. So she went to her tent, and she fell asleep just like that. Said, slept like a rock. And why did she know that? Because when she woke up, there were bullet holes in her tent. Her plane, a German plane had strafed her tent. Well, that ain't the end of the story. That German pilot got shot down and was wounded and wound up being her patient the next day. And she was treating him, and he could speak a little English, and well, it came out that he had strafed her tent, and so talk about irony. And there she was treating his wounds after he tried to kill her the night before. So, but, you know, I lost her a few years ago, and that was a terrible loss. And she was a thespian, too. She did a lot of acting, her and her son. So, anyway, a shout out to all you veterans out there. And Scott wants to say a few words, and we're going to end it with this.
All right, folks, whoever still on here watching, enjoying our program, we appreciate you tuning in and seeing what's going on. We're just trying to bring a good word here to the streets of Pawhuska. We've got some good friends here. We're just going to keep trying to do things to keep folks, their heads in the right space. So, blessings to all you out there. Everybody that needs help, we know everybody needs help. But prayers are going out for everybody because we got to pray that we can find a way back with our nation, our peoples, whatever's going on. It's just crazy. But we're gonna stand up here on this balcony 3 nights a week. We're gonna play music. We're gonna talk history and healing. And we're
Always remembering, we're always brothers. We're all brothers and sisters.
Absolutely.
All
Right
brothers
here.
are under the same skin.
Absolutely. But guys, we're gonna put out the good word. Thank you very much for spending your time with us. Rooster, if you're gonna hit that finish button right there, we'll be done.
Right there.
All right, folks. Take care.